A Russian convoy ventured onto a forest road, confident that the dense tree cover would conceal its movement from aerial observation. Yet, mere moments later, that very road began to reveal a fatal miscalculation. From high above, Ukrainian FPV drones spotted what the ground crews failed to grasp in time: a seemingly safe route had transformed into a constricted corridor. Here, every pause, every reduction in speed, and every misplaced gap in the formation risked triggering a cascade of devastating consequences. Once a vehicle is exposed, the immediate threat of a strike is just the beginning. The critical question becomes what else might be drawn into the danger zone. Armored vehicles, vital firepower, crucial supplies, communication systems, and even positions well behind the front lines can all quickly fall within the same circle of risk. What then was the critical error made by this Russian convoy on the forest road? How could a seemingly simple choice of route lay bare such profound vulnerabilities? And does this ambush signify a broader evolution in how Ukrainian FPV drones are reshaping the modern battlefield? Ukraine's drone campaign has evolved far beyond isolated strikes. It is now a continuous target hunting system that observes, tracks, and attacks Russian movements across multiple layers of the battlefield. The initial layer is reconnaissance, where Ukrainian unmanned aerial vehicles, or UAVs, meticulously scan roads, forest lines, firing positions, supply routes, depot areas, and potential hiding spots behind the front. Their primary mission is to locate a target, assess its trajectory and speed, and determine if it belongs to a larger convoy or support network. This comprehensive approach is crucial because Russia now faces threats extending far beyond easily identifiable armored targets. A tank, an armored personnel carrier, an infantry fighting vehicle, an artillery piece, a multiple launch rocket system, a supply truck, an ammunition carrier, a fuel tanker, or a communication system can all become integral parts of the same destructive chain once detected from above. FPV drones then serve as the rapid strike element. They are capable of engaging moving vehicles, exposed weapon systems, damaged armor, or equipment that has just betrayed its position. Their key advantage lies in timing, as the interval between detection and attack can be incredibly brief. A vehicle that appears secure one moment can be critically vulnerable seconds later. The danger is particularly acute on forest roads. While trees might offer concealment from ground observers, they simultaneously narrow the path, restrict escape routes, and make every slowdown an opportunity for exploitation. Bomber drones introduce an additional layer of pressure, especially when a target has halted, been abandoned, or has congregated near a depot, tree line, or field storage area. These drones enable Ukraine to target equipment, ammunition, fuel, and support vehicles without always resorting to larger, more expensive weaponry. Collectively, these drones forge a formidable battlefield kill chain. One UAV can initially detect the target, another can maintain continuous surveillance, an FPV drone can deliver the initial strike, and a bomber drone can return to neutralize any remnants. A subsequent reconnaissance pass can then confirm the damage and identify the next exposed asset. This interconnected chain fundamentally redefines the meaning of movement for Russian units. A vehicle is no longer safe merely because it has left the immediate front line. A firing system is not secure simply because it has retreated after engaging targets. A supply truck enjoys no immunity just by operating behind the assault line. Ukraine is effectively generating pressure before any explosion occurs. Russian crews are compelled to operate under the assumption that being seen can rapidly translate into being hit. This environment forces faster decisions, shorter pauses, and an increased propensity for mistakes under extreme stress. This is precisely why the entire drone system holds more significance than any single video clip. It illustrates a battlefield where observation, precise timing, and cost-effective precision weapons operate in seamless concert. Once an armored target is drawn into this vigilant system, its survival hinges less on the perceived strength of its armor and more on its ability to maintain continuous movement. This brings us directly to the next critical problem. Once mobility is compromised, armor becomes significantly easier to destroy. Russian armored vehicles are typically neutralized through a sequence of failures, rather than a single decisive strike. The process invariably begins when movement ceases or is severely impaired. A tank might enter a forest road, its frontal armor oriented towards anticipated threats. An armored personnel carrier might follow with its infantry, or an infantry fighting vehicle might attempt to navigate a constricted approach before Ukrainian fire can react. However, the pivotal moment often precedes the final explosion. It starts when the vehicle slows down, strikes a mine, sustains an initial FPV drone hit, or simply halts in an unfavorable position. This interruption fundamentally alters the dynamic of the engagement. A moving vehicle retains options. It can reverse, turn, utilize available cover, or depart the road entirely. A vehicle with broken tracks, however, possesses almost no such choices. Once mobility is lost, the crew is forced to fight from a position dictated by the battlefield itself. Mines, artillery, and initial drone strikes do not need to immediately destroy the vehicle. Their primary objective is merely to damage its movement and create the crucial pause that facilitates subsequent attacks. When the lead vehicle in a formation loses speed, the danger rapidly propagates through the entire column. A narrow road offers following vehicles minimal space for maneuver. Drivers behind the damaged vehicle may be forced to stop, slow down, or veer into exposed terrain. Armor functions most effectively when it can maintain momentum and confront threats from its strongest aspects. Once the formation is blocked, every vehicle becomes an easier subject for aerial observation. The convoy can no longer rely on speed as a form of protection. For Ukrainian drone teams, this enforced pause grants invaluable time. A pilot can meticulously observe how the crew reacts, pinpoint the exact location of the damage, and identify which side of the vehicle is most exposed. The initial strike might only compel a stop, but the subsequent attack can be executed with far greater precision. The damaged vehicle transforms into a stationary problem. While it may still possess formidable armor, it is now effectively trapped within a kill zone. If the crew attempts to open a hatch, escape, or await recovery, each action can inadvertently create another vulnerability. FPV drones are not required to penetrate a tank's thickest frontal armor. Instead, they can target areas never designed to withstand repeated top or rear impacts. Open hatches represent a clear risk, particularly when crews attempt to gain situational awareness, escape smoke, or abandon a disabled vehicle. The engine deck is another highly vulnerable area, as a hit there can ignite a fire and prevent recovery efforts. The rear section of a vehicle becomes exposed when it turns, reverses, or is entrapped. The gap between the turret and the hull can be even more perilous. A precise strike near this area can reach stored ammunition or thinner protective plating around the turret ring. Even vehicles fitted with a cope cage can still present exploitable spaces for a skilled pilot. While the cage might alter the attack angle, it does not eliminate every potential opening. This is precisely where relatively small weapons can yield disproportionately large results. An FPV drone typically carries a limited warhead, but if it successfully reaches fuel, ammunition, or critical storage within the vehicle, the resulting explosion can far exceed the drone's own destructive power. Secondary explosions are the reason these attacks frequently appear so devastating. The drone merely acts as the trigger, the true force originates from the vehicle's internal contents. A tank laden with ammunition, an infantry fighting vehicle carrying supplies, or an armored personnel carrier loaded with explosive material can all erupt into a much larger blast once their internal cargo ignites. A single accurate strike can leave almost nothing recoverable. For Russia, the challenge extends beyond the mere loss of expensive armor. It encompasses a profound erosion of confidence in armored movement itself. A vehicle may be robust, but if it is slowed, continuously observed, and attacked sequentially, its inherent protection becomes significantly less decisive. Recovery operations also become inherently dangerous. Dispatching another vehicle to extract damaged armor can merely create a second target in the same hazardous area. Conversely, waiting for recovery grants drones more time to operate. In response to this evolving threat chain, Russia has attempted to bolster its protection with additional cages, metal frames, and electronic systems, all designed to enhance crew survivability. However, these additions do not mark the end of the contest, rather, they propel it into its next phase. Russia's response to the FPV drone threat is now widely evident across numerous vehicles. An increasing number of steel plates, improvised cages, additional frames, and electronic warfare systems have appeared along the front lines. These modifications clearly indicate Moscow's recognition of the inherent danger. Yet, they also underscore the fundamental limitations of protection in a sky perpetually monitored by small drones. A cope cage can still offer some benefit, potentially forcing an incoming FPV drone to detonate before it reaches the main armor and making a clean hit more challenging for the pilot. Additional metal screens might reduce the likelihood of a warhead striking a vulnerable surface. Electronic warfare systems add another defensive layer by attempting to disrupt the signal link between the drone and its operator. For a Russian crew, even a few precious seconds of interference can be sufficient for survival. Nevertheless, these defenses do not create an impenetrable safe bubble around the vehicle. Instead, they merely alter the problem that Ukrainian pilots must solve. A tank covered with a cage still possesses inherent weak zones. An infantry fighting vehicle with supplementary screen still has an engine compartment, a rear section, a turret ring, roof gaps, and openings around any added frames. An armored personnel carrier equipped with electronic warfare may mitigate the risk from a single drone, but it cannot always prevent multiple drones from approaching simultaneously from different angles. Ukrainian crews are adept at adjusting their attack strategies rather than abandoning a target. They might dispatch an initial drone to probe the jamming field. They may patiently wait until the vehicle slows, turns, or exposes its rear. They might then aim for the critical space between the turret and the hull, the engine deck, or any gaps created by hastily applied field modifications. This dynamic transforms protection into a continuous contest of angles and timing. Russia layers on defenses to thwart the most straightforward strikes, while Ukraine meticulously studies the remaining vulnerabilities. The exploitable opening does not necessarily need to be large. If a drone successfully reaches fuel, ammunition, or a thinner section near the vehicle's top, even a small warhead can inflict severe damage. Moreover, added protection comes with its own set of costs. A cage undeniably makes the vehicle larger and easier to spot from above. Extra metal can increase weight, reduce visibility, restrict turret movement, and complicate driving on narrow forest roads or over damaged terrain. A vehicle that becomes harder to conceal and less agile might survive one immediate threat only to become exposed to another. This is particularly crucial in restricted environments where crews cannot easily reverse, disperse, or hide their vehicles once drones begin circling overhead. Electronic warfare also has its limitations. It requires power, precise placement, and continuous operation. Furthermore, its activation can inadvertently signal the presence of an important vehicle nearby. While it may disrupt drones relying on specific control links, it does not nullify the threat from mines, artillery, bomber drones, or every FPV guided through alternative, more resistant methods. In practical terms, Russia is not definitively solving the drone problem, rather, it is buying time within an increasingly perilous environment. That brief reprieve might save a crew in one instance, but it can also draw greater Ukrainian attention if the vehicle remains visible, valuable, and unable to depart quickly. The conflict thus becomes an ongoing cycle of adaptation. One side constructs a cage, the other meticulously studies the remaining gap, one side activates jamming, the other adjusts its route, altitude, timing, or attack vector. Protection evolves into an element of a moving contest, not a definitive solution. Russian armor may become more difficult to destroy, but it certainly does not become invisible, nor does it gain the freedom to move without significant risk. An even less predictable danger is emerging because some FPV drones no longer need to actively chase targets from above. Instead, they can lie in wait near a road until their target comes to them. At this juncture, protection offers only temporary delay, not lasting certainty. The newest evolution in FPV warfare isn't solely the drone that pursues a target from the sky, it's the drone that patiently waits for its quarry to arrive. These wader drones fundamentally alter the rhythm of an attack, transforming a flying weapon into a sophisticated ambush tool. Rather than expending precious battery power searching for a moving vehicle, the drone can land discreetly near a road, a tree line, a trench approach, or any route frequently used by Russian troops. From this static position, it becomes significantly harder to detect. It isn't circling overhead, generating noise, or displaying a clear flight path. It can remain low, silent, and simply await the opportune moment when the battlefield brings the target closer. This ensures that the first warning arrives dangerously late. For Russian forces navigating narrow routes, this presents a severe tactical dilemma. A driver might presume that danger only begins when a drone appears in the air. However, if the drone is already positioned near the road, the attack can commence the instant the vehicle enters the designated kill zone. The crew has drastically less time to react, the vehicle has minimal space to maneuver, and any escort trailing behind may struggle to ascertain the origin of the strike. This tactic is particularly lethal on forest roads and approach corridors, where trees, mud, damaged tracks, or abandoned equipment already severely restrict movement. A convoy relying on speed for protection can lose that advantage instantaneously. Speed is beneficial when a vehicle attempts to outrun a drone approaching from a distance, but it offers far less utility when the weapon has already been pre-positioned along the route. In such scenarios, the vehicle isn't escaping a chase, it is driving directly into an ambush. The same profound danger extends to infantry and small assault groups. Soldiers moving along a trench line, traversing a tree belt, or approaching a forward position might feel a false sense of security because no drone is visible above them. A waiting FPV drone eradicates that comfort. It can suddenly ascend from nearby ground and strike before the group has any chance to disperse. This makes even routine movement fraught with uncertainty. Every familiar path becomes suspect, every pause near cover potentially dangerous, and every repeated route a pattern that Ukraine can study and then exploit against the next group that uses it. The true value of this tactic isn't solely the explosion, it's the immense pressure it exerts on decision-making. Russian units must now contend with both visible drones and those they cannot see. They are forced to simultaneously scan the road, the sky, the tree line, and the immediate ground. This inevitably slows movement and cultivates hesitation. It can compel vehicles to change routes, separate prematurely, or stop in locations that offer no greater safety than the road they initially sought to avoid. A wader drone operates much like a smart mine, but with a human pilot providing real-time intelligence. It can conserve energy, minimize warning signs, and attack only when the target is close enough for a chance of success. While this doesn't render every route entirely unusable, it makes routine movement profoundly more difficult to trust. For Russia, this represents a deeper, more insidious danger. Once small vehicles, supply routes, and infantry paths can be ambushed in this manner, the risk dramatically escalates for larger, more critical systems operating behind them. The next layer of intensified pressure is now squarely focused on Russia's heavy fire platforms, which inherently combine immense battlefield power with dangerous internal vulnerabilities. Systems like the TOS-1A Solntsepyak, BM-30 Smerch, and BM-27 Uragan are not conventional vehicles. They are purpose-built to deliver sudden, devastating barrages against entrenched positions, troop concentrations, and fortified strongpoints. When these critical systems appear, Ukraine has a compelling imperative to hunt them down swiftly, as the destruction of even one launcher can neutralize a significant threat before it can influence the next phase of the conflict. The TOS-1A is particularly feared due to its thermobaric rockets. These weapons generate intense blast waves and extreme heat, making them exceptionally dangerous against bunkers, dugouts, and defensive lines. Yet, this very rocket payload also represents a critical weakness. If an FPV drone successfully reaches the launcher or its ammunition storage area, the vehicle itself can become an enormous explosive source. The drone's warhead may be small, but the stored rockets can amplify the impact into a far larger, more catastrophic detonation. This inherent vulnerability makes the system dangerous to both sides once it is exposed. The BM-30 Smerch and BM-27 Uragan pose a different, yet equally significant, challenge for Ukraine. These systems can fire from considerable distances, then rapidly relocate away from their firing positions before counter-battery fire can arrive. In the context of older battlefield doctrines, their range and mobility offered a superior chance of survival. However, in this war, reconnaissance drones are capable of tracking their entire operational cycle post-launch. A launcher may fire, withdraw, and head for cover, but its subsequent route can still be meticulously observed from above. This makes the period immediately following a firing mission exceptionally dangerous. The crew might believe the hardest part is over once the rockets have left the rails. In reality, the vehicle may now be easier to track because it has revealed its firing location and begun moving along a predictable route. UAV operators can observe where it seeks concealment, where it reloads, or where it converges with other support vehicles. Once this pattern is identified, the launcher is no longer protected solely by distance. It becomes part of a detectable trail that can guide Ukrainian strike teams to a far more valuable target. This fundamentally alters the meaning of counter-battery warfare. Ukraine is not merely attempting to hit a launcher at the precise moment it fires, it is endeavoring to monitor its full operational cycle, from firing to withdrawal, concealment, reloading, and eventual return. Each stage presents an opportunity for a strike, and each pause provides drone operators with more critical intelligence. For Russia, the loss of these systems weakens more than just firepower. It erodes confidence, complicates planning, and compels commanders to move these invaluable launchers with extreme caution. Every rocket mission can create a discernible trail, and every trail can ultimately become a target. Crews may be forced to shorten firing windows, alter their routes, or remain hidden for longer periods. However, these choices inevitably reduce the tempo of Russian artillery support. A weapon system designed for sudden, massed fire becomes significantly less effective if it must spend more time evading detection than preparing its next launch. Yet, major firepower represents only one layer of this evolving conflict, as Ukraine is also increasingly targeting the critical systems that enable Russia to see, communicate, control its own drones, and maintain battlefield cohesion under duress. Ukraine is now extending its strikes beyond mere vehicles and weapon systems, aiming at the foundational infrastructure that allows Russian forces to observe, communicate, move, and command the battle effectively. This particular layer of drone warfare, while less visually dramatic than a burning tank, can prove far more damaging over time. The individual targets may be smaller, but their consequences can propagate with remarkable speed. Antenna sites, relay stations, electronic warfare systems, drone operator positions, hangars, depots, and fuel logistics are all indispensable for keeping Russian units connected, supplied, and aware of their operational environment. When one of these crucial nodes is destroyed, the ripple effect can extend far beyond the immediate blast radius. A damaged relay station can severely weaken drone control across an entire sector. A destroyed antenna can cripple communication between forward teams and their support crews. A successful hit on an electronic warfare system can open up significant airspace for Ukrainian drones to operate more freely. A strike on a fuel depot can slow down vehicles that haven't even reached the front lines. Ukraine is, therefore, systematically attacking the operational rhythm behind Russian military activities. If Russian crews cannot receive orders promptly, guide their UAVs reliably, move fuel forward efficiently, or adequately protect their drone operators, then even their most powerful weapons become significantly harder to deploy at the decisive moment. The same logic applies to hangars, depots, and supply trucks. A hangar may offer protection for equipment from weather and observation, but once its location is discovered, it can become a single point where multiple valuable assets are lost simultaneously. A depot might be situated far behind the fighting line, but if drones can reach it, distance no longer guarantees safety. This escalating pressure is also expanding towards Crimea. In that theater, sea drones may play a crucial role in bringing FPV drones or strike UAVs closer to the shore, thereby creating novel avenues to challenge Russian air defense systems, naval assets, airfield infrastructure, and drone bases. the reported attacks in Crimea should always be described with caution. Specific details, such as reported damage to a Tor M2 air defense system, a control tower, or a four-post hangar, often originate from preliminary battlefield reporting and still require independent confirmation. The safer language to use is reported according to preliminary information or if confirmed. This prudence is vital because the broader strategic trend is already clearly visible, even without overstating the impact of any single strike. Ukraine is actively working to integrate the front lines, the rear areas, and the coast into one cohesive pressure zone. When all these target layers are considered together, from a motorcycle concealed in a tree lean to a UAV base in Crimea, the overall picture transcends individual drone hits. It reveals a profound shift in how modern warfare is conducted. Drones are no longer merely supporting tools on the Ukrainian battlefield, they are fundamentally shaping the way targets are identified, entrapped, and ultimately destroyed. From motorcycles hidden within tree leans to supply trucks, tanks, rocket systems, and drone bases in Crimea, the threat now permeates every layer of Russian operations. Ukraine is leveraging this pervasive pressure to slow movement, disrupt logistics, diminish fire support, and sever the communication links that bind units together. Russia will undoubtedly continue to adapt with cope cages, electronic warfare systems, camouflage, decoys, smoke screens, night movements, and wider dispersion. While these measures may reduce losses in certain scenarios, they cannot fully restore the former sense of secure movement. The next phase of this conflict will hinge on speed, data, and coordination. The side that can observe faster, strike sooner, and integrate battlefield information more effectively will inevitably gain the stronger hand in modern warfare. That is the unequivocal lesson now emerging from Ukraine's drone-dominated front line today. War should never be viewed as entertainment, but rather studied as a sobering warning about the profound costs of failed politics, broken deterrence, and human miscalculation. Stay informed, remain critical, and continue to follow the facts behind the front lines.